In Singapore, we have seen quite a spectacular growth in the availability of electric vehicles in recent years. But in particular, when you look at mass market electric vehicles targeted at the middle income consumer, the majority of that growth has actually come from Chinese electric vehicle brands.
China, a global leader in electric vehicle or EV production, has been ramping up its export strategy, looking to capture international markets, particularly in Southeast Asia in countries like Singapore.
Historically, our Singapore car market was dominated by continental manufacturers as well as Japanese and Korean makes. And I think what Chinese EV brands have brought to the table is an alternative for consumers, which has been focused in electrification, but also high technology.
With sleek designs and cutting-edge technology, these Chinese-made electric vehicles have rapidly expanded their presence and injected a fresh wave of innovation and affordability to Singapore's automotive market.
In terms of pricing, they've gone for the mass market to mass premium end of pricing. And so in presenting to Singapore consumers electric vehicles, high technology, premium models, but at a very good price, I think that has shaken up the car market in Singapore quite a lot.
As the leading and first ever EV brand to enter Singapore's market, BYD has seen reception to EVs warming over the last few years.
Over the past few years, the government of Singapore has been setting up a lot of good infrastructure supporting EVs operation. And the government is giving a lot of support as well by giving concessions in terms of taxes so that people are more affordable to own an EV.
Aside from increased affordability, doubts about whether electric vehicles are able to rival traditional cars performance-wise have also begun to diminish among consumers.
The most important thing is the considerations of range anxiety, particularly the fact that the battery capacity is limited. But in today's context, in terms of the technology, our average range of vehicles is basically about 500 kilometers. So considering that every day you're traveling about 30 to 50 kilometers in Singapore, you have a good range to be driven within the country. All the initial worries has been erased quite significantly over the past few years.
Despite all the enthusiasm around EVs, the road to full EV adoption is not without its potholes.
I think the challenge there in terms of infrastructure is going to be the match between charging availability and how many EVs there are actually on the road. Because we're currently in the early stages of EV deployment. Singapore is an urban environment. Most of the population lives in high-rise housing. So basically, majority of EV owners have to share their charging at public housing board, car park lots throughout Singapore. From what we hear from charge point operators, there are too few EVs on the road and too many charge points available. But at the same time, in certain local areas, there could also be maybe too many EVs and not enough charging points. So these are things we have to iron out as things go along.
The influx of Chinese EVs isn't just about expanding market share, it's a crucial step in Singapore's journey toward its carbon reduction goals as the country aims to phase out internal combustion engine vehicles by 2040.
Singapore is an urban environment. One of our concerns with motor vehicle use would be local pollution. Singapore has already made quite a lot of improvements in that area, but we also recognize that electric vehicles are an important part of this solution. Using public transport is the greenest form of land transport available. But if you have to use a private motor vehicle, then an electric vehicle is definitely greener than any petrol or conventional vehicle would be.
With Chinese brands leading the charge, Singapore's roads are not only becoming cleaner, but also setting the pace for the future of transportation in Southeast Asia.